Going back to Netanyahu's speech to Congress, actually. So Prime Minister said specifically with regards to Rafah, and I quote, practically no civilians killed in Rafah. And it got actually standing ovation from U.S. Congress. And you hear, I know it's different branches, State Department and Congress, and you hear acknowledging thousands of civilians, innocent civilians were killed by this as a result of this military campaign. So I'm wondering, do you think your statements here and that Congress's reaction to Netanyahu's remarks, and it was a false claim verifiable by various respectable news organizations, including ones in the United States, sending maybe conflicting messages to the rest of the world with regards to what U.S. really wants and how it approaches to this conflict? So
again, we don't speak for Congress, and Congress doesn't speak for us. Mm-hmm. And I hope most people around the world would understand that and understand that we are a big democracy with people with a host of different views from all sides of the political spectrum. There are people inside the Congress, including people who were at the speech today, who strenuously support everything that Israel has done. And there are other members of Congress, including some who are making their views known in the chamber, who strenuously oppose things that Israel does. That's part of what being in a democracy does. I speak on behalf of the executive branch, and I'll continue to make our views known on policy matters. I'll continue to make our views known about the facts of what has happened in Gaza and where we ought to go from here. When it comes to civilian casualties in Rafah, of course, there have been civilian casualties in Rafah. We have all seen verified reports of civilian casualties during the conflict there. Now, one thing that is true, the number of civilian casualties in the Rafah campaign is significantly lower than the number of human casualties in the campaign in Gaza City and in the campaign in Khan Yunis. We think that's for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that a number of people in Rafah evacuated sooner or early in the campaign, before the campaign really began in earnest. Another of the reasons we think is that we were pushing Israel to execute a more limited campaign than what they did in Gaza City and what they did in Khan Yunis, and they ultimately did that. But of course, there were still civilians that died in Rafah, and every civilian death is a tragedy.